is well, they're supposed to be runaway leaders, Hearts. I found them really
They're
tricky to
slowly
grade.
running away leaders.
Yeah, what did you go for Hearts?
I mean, they're going to win the league, and they're top, and they've been top since pretty much the fourth game of the season. I think there was only us that were in Dunfermline that kept them off top spot the first couple of games. But I gave them an A/B. I just couldn't give them a straight down A because there's been games that they've been ranked rotten, and they've been either they've gotten a draw out at late on, or they've been beaten. And yeah, I heard the term that they're sleepwalking to the title, and it's spot on. Like, genuinely, they're just getting the results over the line. They're not. I've not seen them since maybe November score and beat somebody like 5-1, which they should be doing with some part-time teams in the league, and they're not doing it. They're winning 1-0, 2-1, 1-1. It's not been a glorious season. I mean, it wasn't going to be anyway, but it's not been outstanding or a record-breaking season, which a lot of folk thought this is the weakest championship that Hearts, because the last time you had Rangers and Hibs in the league with them, this time they've not got anything like that, and they had basically a free run to go at the title. So, yeah, I give them an A/B.
Yeah, I think I gave them a B. I think when you said they're sleepwalking to the title, like you're right. That just nails it. That is exactly what they're doing. They're a weird one because, well, like when they came down last time, they battered everybody and went back up, won the league by a mile, scored like 100 goals. I think they did not put like 10 past Cowdenbeath at one point. I think they beat them like 10-2 or something.
Probably, yeah. I can't remember, but they probably did.
The funny thing is, and again, I'd be interested to know if Hearts fans agree, but like they're not a team. The players they have aren't capable of doing that. Like they were at their best, arguably, like in the Scottish Cup final when they played Celtic and took Celtic all the way, when they were grinding the game out. And that's kind of what they've been doing. They've been like grinding games out and relying on Liam Boyce to be the difference maker up top, because he obviously top scorer in the league with 11 goals. He's the best striker in the league, and that's basically what they've been doing. They don't batter teams. They, like you say, they sleepwalk past teams. They sneak past them.
Yeah.
And I think it's like Hearts fans. I don't think any Hearts fan would give them an A this season.
No.
And I've seen a lot of criticism leveled at Robbie Neilson. Anne Budge was out kind of defending him a bit during the week, saying, I mean, she basically intimated that as long as they go up, it's fine. And that is it. Like, if you gave a Hearts fan promotion, they'll take it. But I feel like after being relegated under such pretenses last year, I think they wanted to come down and like make a statement and like batter the championship and say we should never have been in this league, and they haven't quite done that. Yeah, they're going to win the league probably comfortably, but 15 points clear. We've got 3 games in hand, so you could argue maybe like in real terms they're only 7 or 8 points clear. For their star player, I mentioned it there, I went for Boyce. 11 goals, 3 assists. I think ahead of Charlie Adam, he's been directly involved in the most goals this season.
Yeah,
possibly a shout for Championship Player of the Year. Well, he is a shout. Possibly going to win it. I also thought Craig Gordon's actually had a really good year. The game against Dundee that we keep mentioning, he bailed them out big time. The only reason they won that game was 2 or 3 excellent saves. And Jamie Walker is looking a little bit like his old self, but having said that, we have dropped down a level. But I mean, he's a far cry from the lad that was talking about getting a Scotland call-up in 2017-18, but he's looking better. So those are some of the guys I've picked out.
No, that's fair enough. I've went with Liam Boyce. Just the fact he's top scorer and got them out of jail quite a few times this season. I went with Stephen Kingsley as well. Just the fact that he's had a few free kicks that have went in, and he's had a few good games as well defensively. But he does swing in a good ball, and he seems to be a bit of a dead ball specialist at times as well. So I just put him in. Just
that's a good
even
shout.
Though it is mainly just Boyce that has kind of got them out of jail.
Yeah, no, Kingsley's a good shout. I completely forgot about him. I'm not gonna lie. He was good when he scored, I think, in the Scottish Cup final. He's a good player, Kingsley. Yeah. So the next team are Inverness, who are also, I think, having a poor season. Too many draws this year is kind of how I typify them. So I gave them a C. They've got a strong squad that should probably be up challenging in the playoffs. But like I said, they've drawn 8 games, which is more than anyone else. But I suppose we can kind of caveat it because, like, with the COVID issues, game postponements, and obviously Robertson having, personal issues and having to get a replacement manager, and I feel like they've had quite an unstable one. So I didn't want to give them too harsh a rating because there are mitigating circumstances. McCann might be able to get them going back up the league. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Nah, I went with a C as well. As you say, they've had a few situations come up with the management staff, but also just, as you say, quite a lot of postponements due to the weather in January. So, and also they had the game with us was called off due to COVID as well. So, yeah, it's been a bit of an annoying season, I would say, for Inverness. The fact that on paper they've got a decent enough squad to challenge for the playoffs anyway. But they've just never had that run of games to get a bit of form going. Really,
I've kind of been like obviously we've been sitting pretty, and I've kind of been like looking down the league, thinking, right, as things go on, who's going to like surge into the playoffs, and like, are we going to be afraid of? And I've kind of been waiting for Inverness to do that. Yeah. So I'll be interested to see whether they can have a late surge, because if they win their 2 games in hand, I think they're only a point off Queen of the South. I wouldn't rule them out for a run at the playoffs, because that 4th spot is going to be wide open, I think. So we were like, even before this, we were messaging. I messaged you being like, who did you put for the star player? Because I couldn't think of one. So I'm just going to go for Keatings purely because we're nicking him at the end of the season. And he has nabbed a few goals. I don't know, who did you have down?
Well, I was kind of the same thing as well, because I've not seen a whole lot of them this season due to the fact that they've been playing either on Tuesday nights or they've been playing just at weird times and stuff because of the fact that they're trying to catch up on games. But so in the end I went with Miles Story and Roddy McGregor. Roddy McGregor
is a good as well. Yeah,
he's a good young talent that's coming through right at the Highlands now. And Miles Story, who has had a few SPL games under his belt with I think it's Partick and Aberdeen, but he's a good player. He's not an out-and-out goal scorer, but he's somebody that will get you 9 and 10 goals a season.
I was kind of like, I think he's a very good player, but he's the kind of player that I thought was going to have a really good year, and he hasn't, he's kind of been all right, but hasn't set the heather alight. If Inverness are going to make a push for the playoffs, I think they need him to start getting games at 8 out of 10s, 9 out of 10s, rather than he can. I don't know. I'm not saying he phones it. He's just phoning it in every week. I just think he hasn't he burst onto the scene. I think it was with Aberdeen, and then he hasn't quite found his form since then. So I'll be interested. Put Shane Sutherland down as well. I think he's nabbed a few goals and assists, and he has jumped up a couple of levels as well. So I haven't seen, apart from that, was it a 3-3 game at Starks Park? That was a bit. It was a pinball football. I haven't seen too much of Inverness because I haven't played that much.
Yeah, so, that's fair enough.
C, and there's a lot more to see for Inverness. I don't think we've seen them properly this year.
I agree. A C is probably correct. Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of teams that haven't quite hit the ground running or really done much at all this season, the next team are Morton. And I don't know about you, but I gave Morton a D. Again, maybe a bit harsh. But I asked a friend of mine who's a Morton fan to sum them up this year, and he said that Morton are like a 6 out of 10 most weeks. He's like, they kind of just coast through a lot of games. They don't have any particular quality in the squad. He doesn't think they'll get relegated, but he doesn't think they'll make playoffs. So it's probably going to be short and sweet, but I noticed they've got the least goals in the division with 16, and their top scorers are all on 3 goals. So it sounded like what my mate was saying was right. Like they're just that team in the league.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I also gave them a D. As you say, they've the lowest scorers in the league with 16, and they've just you're almost shocked if they get more than a goal in a game. But yeah, I mean, they're a weird team because we've seen them twice now this season when we've played them. In one game, we absolutely hammered them 5-0.
Yeah.
The other game was only 1-0, but I put that more down to the conditions and the pitch than anything. Neither team really could get any sort of rhythm going. It was that kind of day, really.
Yeah.
It wasn't great weather-wise, and the pitch wasn't great. So it did have 1-0 to either side written all over it from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, and we didn't play that well that game. It was just a bit of an anti-football match. That Davos scored in that game, I think. Yeah.
He got a goal, but
it wasn't a great watch.
Yeah, I mean, on paper and from previous seasons before his injury, you would have said that their star player or a player that their fans are always trying to tell people that they get excited for is Aidan Nesbitt.
Yeah.
He's somebody that came through the Celtic Academy and had a few loan spells, but now is permanently at Morton. And I always think I've seen him against us, but I've also seen him in a few other games and gone, he seems to be a player that if I supported Morton, he would frustrate the life out of me. Because you can tell he's got a bit of talent, but he just seems to be so inconsistent.
Yeah, he's kind of like, he's the player that could bail Morton out, but he'll also vanish for 3-4 weeks at a time, and they'll score for goals in that period.
Another player that I've picked 2 players. Funny enough, I've actually put down Aidan Nesbitt. It was kind of one of their worst players this year. More on the fact, as I say, it's his reputation of he's a player that's meant to be their best player. I've put down that 2 of their better players have been Craig McGuffey, who's actually recently hit a bit of goal scoring form. And Luca Colville in midfield. He didn't really start in the team at the start of the season, but kind of since just before Christmas time, he was getting more starts. And I had seen on forums and Morton's Twitter page that fans were wanting him to get more of a chance because they liked him last season coming into the team. And he seems to have kind of solidified a place in that midfield now, especially with Jim McAllister now retiring as well halfway through the season.
Yeah, I think the other 2 players I had down of note was Calvin Orsay up front. Orsay, who I think is kind of a bit like Nisbet. I think he puts a shift in every week, but I don't think he's as effective as he can be. I think some weeks he looks like he's red hot and an engine in the team, and other weeks he just floats about up top and doesn't really do too much. They've kind of got Morton have kind of got a lot of players that have kind of been not around the block, but they've got players who haven't quite settled at clubs or are kind of lower championship, upper League One, like Kyle Jacobs. I don't know. They've got
McGuffey's had a few clubs now.
McGuffey's been a bit of it too. I think when my mate said that they felt like a 6 out of 10 every week. When you look at their squad, I can kind of see why. I think they don't have any star players, which is why they're not challenging in the playoffs, because there isn't anybody that can unlock defences with a bit of skill. I noticed they've got I think it's Kazaya Sterling on loan from Spurs, I think it is. So I haven't seen
this
him play.
massive Champions League player they're saying.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was they announced they've signed a
That's
player with
played like
Champions
3
League
minutes
experience.
or something.
Because he came on it for 3 minutes against SC Vlada. Fuck knows what.
I think the whole Scottish lower league football was actually so intrigued to who the hell they had signed on loan at that night that they had announced that. But yeah, it was a bit of a letdown.
Whether he turns out to be any decent, I don't know. But I just I mean, I'm looking at the squad now, and they haven't won in the table now, and they haven't won in 5 games. They have a great. I mean, -8 is technically the second worst goal difference. They haven't scored a lot of goals. Like they could be they could be the team that finishes 9th and just gets picked. Because like if you think about it playoff wise, you know, you're thinking you've got 2 out of Partick, Falkirk, and Cove are going to be in the playoff position, and I'd be worried if I were Morton because I don't think they have the quality in their squad, and over 2 legs or in a single game, I'd fancy Cove to beat them or Partick.
Yeah, as I say, they are a tricky team. I would be more inclined to say that Cove over 2 legs might beat Morton.
Right.
I'm still not convinced on Partick this season. I think
you don't think they're going to come good.
The only thing that's helped them this season, I think, is the fact that League One. I know there's a few decent teams in League One. We've seen them over the past couple of seasons anyway, being down there. But I just think it's, apart from Cove, Falkirk, and Partick, it's a very, I'm going to say it's quite a weak League One this season. Dumbarton, they went through a spell at the start of the season where they were just defying odds and actually getting results when everyone was they're going down. But they've kind of jumped back again. But obviously, we don't really know what's going to happen because the fact that the lower leagues have been suspended since January. So, but Partick this week, I know this is a Morton section, but Partick this week have went and signed 2 guys from non-league, the Lowland League this week.
Yeah,
both have played at a good level in Scotland, but we'll see.
I mean, Partick are 5th just now, so they might not even make the playoffs. But so do you think Morton will stay up, or do you think they'll go down? Because I'm looking at the table, I think Morton are the team that might get caught and go down in the 9th place playoff.
I genuinely can't call it. It's that close right now. I'm gonna sit on the fence and say I'm gonna want to wait till 2-3 games to go. To genuinely, there's still 9 games to go for most clubs. So as I say, we're in the final third of the season. So I can't call it. They've got a crucial game tonight up in Inverness, which if they were to go and win that, then fair enough. They've helped themselves massively, and they've probably put Alloa more in a hole with that if they go and win. But if Inverness are to win, then you're more inclined to think, it probably is Morton that finished 9th.
Yeah, they just don't want to get isolated in 9th, I suppose.
No.
So, I think we'll just have to wait and see with Morton. Okay, Queen of the South. I suppose I'll go into Queen of the South because I was chatting to my friend Mark. Shout out to Mark about this over the week. So he was saying that if you'd asked him this 10 games into this, or the first half of the season so far, he'd have said that Queen of the South were destined for the drop. But since then, since January, if the league had started on January the 1st, Queen of the South would be top of the league, which is some ton of events. So they've really had a polar season. And I actually thought I was fearing for Alan Johnson's job. I thought he was going to get the sack at one point, and he's somehow turned it around. And they seem to have done some really good business in January that's driven that. So I've given Queen of the South a C to reflect the fact they're a C plus to reflect they had a poor start to the season, and they've revived a bit. And I thought about giving them a B because Queen of the South would have bitten your hand off for 4th place at the start of the year where they're currently sitting. So I don't know what you had.
So as you say, it's a bit of a contrast between the first 9 games and the next 9 for Queen of the South.
Yeah.
I've got a B/C. As you say, I want to put a B the fact that they're sitting in the playoffs. I don't know how you can't say a team in the playoffs is any worse than a B or a C.
Especially Queen of the
as you
South,
say,
who probably aren't a team you would expect to be in the playoffs.
yeah. But as you say, the fact that they had such a bad start to the season, then that's why I've put a C with it. Just as you say, it kind of has to. You have to, although they're flying high currently. You've got to remember the start of the season. Like everybody was going, Christ, Alloa are safe this season. Queens are worse. But
they were terrible.
Queens have definitely picked up. And I noted down that they've picked up 20 points out of possible 27 in 2021, which is, obviously the season didn't start on the 1st of January, but that's championship winning form.
It is, yeah, it is.
So to get that, and I mean, it's helped the fact that is it Connor Shields and Ayo Obalai have both just started scoring for fun.
I know, so, I had those were the two players I had down for the star players or players I know, because Obalai has 8 goals in 17 games this season, which for a defensive mid is just absurd.
I mean, he started out at centre back, I'm sure this season, but they've moved him into like that number 6 role now. Whether they think he's more of a ball playing defensive player and just thought we'll push him up a little bit, and that's brought in. I think Reece Breen has been brought in to be playing centre half now with Buchanan. So
I think Obalai,
it'll be interesting to see how the rest of this season goes for him as well.
Yeah, Mark was saying that Obalai was once on the books of Chelsea, so in terms of ball playing or ability on the ball, I can kind of see why he would, or why he might have that ability, and why they would then be like, they might feel they want to push him further up the pitch. I don't know. Did we not do the same with like Lewis Toshney at one point? Did he come to us as a defender and we pushed him to midfield?
We signed him as we signed him as a centre half. And I think everybody noticed that he was good on the ball and that he could do, like Davo's done it as well at times.
Yeah.
And he can step into like a defensive mid. And Toshney, I think the only times really he did it for us was usually when we played somebody like Rangers to get another player in midfield that's defensive minded. Because right, Rangers are going to have 70 to 80% of the ball.
Yeah.
So we need to be tight and make sure that we're compact. So I think that was mainly the games he did it for.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. He did get moved up into midfield sometimes. I did note a couple of players that I think I'm more saying that they underperformed at the start of the season.
Yeah.
Although one of the players I've never really been a fan of anyway, and one of them was Gregor Buchanan. I've never rated him. I'm sorry for anybody if they're going to listen to this, I'm a big Gregor Buchanan fan, but I don't know what it is. I've heard when he was at Falkirk, I heard everyone raving about him, and every time we played him last season, I thought he was awful.
Gregor Buchanan's going to be listening to this thinking, what the hell, man?
I just didn't see why. Like, he's not the worst defender ever, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think he's a very good championship defender. So, the other boy I did, and it's maybe a bit harsh. It's a young lad that's at Queens now, Ewan East. Okay. He's a sort of attacking mid / winger, but I just think he's not getting enough goal returns or assists for somebody in that sort of position. I mean, I've not watched every Queens game, so maybe I've missed a few games that he's actually played decent, but for somebody, he is young, so he can progress and improve on that, but that's just another point that I noticed.
The only other player I noted was, I think Willie Gibson might have won Player of the Month at some point and seems to have been having a bit of a...
I seen somebody plastering on social media, but I think it was just somebody throwing a rod out there and trying to catch plenty of fish. Was that they had said that Willie Gibson was the best right back outside of the SPL, and I just about fell off my chair reading it.
They nearly got you. I wouldn't quite go that far, but he is having a decent renaissance this season.
Yeah.
So, do you think they'll finish in the playoffs? I think I said already that I think they might get pipped by Dundee, but then who knows if they continue their form or not.
I genuinely, I'm just waiting on, I don't know who yet, but there is going to be somebody beats them, and I've got a funny feeling for some reason they might go on a wee run of not winning again. And I think that might be, they get halted at some point, whoever it is and when it is, I don't know, but I think they might just finish a couple of points or a few points outside. But
Yeah,
here's a fun fact that I found out when I was doing research about Queens was that Obalayi boy last season played in the same team as Gozi Ugwu.
Oh, really? Was that
Yeah,
Oxford?
both at Ebbsfleet.
Ebbsfleet.
So it was just something that I noticed because I went and checked where it came from ahead of this season, and I was like, is that not where Ugwu came from? And I went and checked, and they two played together last season.
Yeah, that level of English football's been a good happy hunting ground for championship transfers. And speaking of teams who have signed non-league players and are doing very well, we'll go into the main event this time, because I got the order right this time, which is the Rovers. We'll probably do a more detailed post-season review of the Rovers, so we won't be too biased. Give them too much time.
Yeah, we'll probably do one at the end of the season.
Yeah, but how would you rate our season so far? What would you give the Rovers?
I've given us a B. Like I wouldn't give us an A because there's been games that we've been shocking in, but I mean, I don't think if somebody told you at the start of the season we're going to be 16 games into the season and we're tied second, then everybody would have bit their hand off for it.
Yeah.
The fact that we've just came up from League One, we went and got quite a few new signings, and as well as keeping the guys that did well for us last season. But yeah, there was a bit of a turnaround compared to the last few seasons, and so I was a little bit worried coming into this season, just thinking there was a couple of unknown quantities coming in, like Sudoku, Ugwu, and I mean, he's no unknown, but Jamie McDonald is getting on a fair bit. So I was thinking, right, is he still going to be as good a goalie as he's been in previous seasons? And I'm going to go out there and say that he's my player of the season already this season.
That's fair enough. Yeah. I gave us an A, and it's not just because I'm incredibly biased and it's the only team I've given an A, but I definitely take your point. Like, there have been a couple of games I've watched for the Rovers this year, like when we lost the game to Arbroath and we've been terrible and we haven't played great. But I think given that Hearts were always going to win this league with the budget and the players they have, I don't we're sitting second. I don't think you can do any better than that. And I would have taken just staying up by any means. So in the context of the fact we're the newly promoted team, we came up, last season with, like you're saying, effectively a League One squad, and had to kind of scramble together players from basically, McGlynn's had a fantastic recruitment process, but we had to kind of assemble a squad during COVID and stuff. I think I have to give us an A, because I don't think we can be doing any better than we are. And the fact that we're annoyed at occasional results or bellwether form to win loss, I think shows how good we've been this season overall. The fact we're sitting second.
I suppose it just shows how optimistic the fan base has turned into. I mean, I would say sometimes the Rovers fans, I know every club's got fans like this, but I have noticed, and I've heard some Rovers players in the past say this, that sometimes the Rafe crowd can be quite hard to please at times.
I know a few
Rovers
fans that are certainly fall into that category.
I don't know. I think we all do, but I don't think anybody can complain this season other than maybe the game at Arbroath. That's been the only real stinker we've had this season.
Yeah.
We've had other games that we've maybe... I didn't think we played that well up at Dundee at the start of the season, and we got a point out of it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think apart from that game at Ayr earlier in the season, I heard my dad saying that he would be shocked to see us ever involved in a 0-0 in this league, the way we've been playing. And funny enough, like, we've had a 0-0, but if there's more than one more, I would be again shocked at the fact that it's just the way that McGlynn plays.
Yeah, we're very good going forward, and the way McDonald and Tumulty play often leaves us exposed at the back, and you see teams punish us for it. Also, sometimes our defence just switches off like they just do. In terms of the star players, to be honest, if I was voting for a player of the season, I think Jamie McDonald's an excellent shout, because there's a few games this year that he's been the difference. Other players I thought of, if he's not the player of the season, I think Manny Duku was one hell of a find. I know he hasn't scored that many goals since the turn of the year, but he hit the ground running and scored. I think he had something like 7 goals in his first 5 games, and he's a great option up top. I don't know whether we'll keep him beyond this season. I don't know if they're in negotiation contracts or whatever. I saw him on Twitter rebuke somebody and say he hasn't signed a pre-contract anywhere.
Yeah. Well, he was getting that kind of thrown at him, just the fact that he wasn't in the starting lineup for about 4 games straight, which everybody found a bit strange. But I don't know. Obviously, it doesn't get announced really, unless it's Celtic at Rangers. But when a club runs into COVID issues, they never say who the players are or whatever.
Yeah, and
he might have been one of the ones that was affected. You don't know, so it might have been the case of he's actually still no match fit yet. We don't know. And I think McGlynn kind of cleared it up and says, look, he wasn't 100%, and I need everybody to be 100% for us to compete, basically. So it was fair enough, and he's been in the starting 11 the last 2 games anyway, so hopefully he keeps going. The only thing I would say that I'm really intrigued to see, and I'm yet to see it, is why we keep subbing Doku for Ugwu and not just try the both of them for half an hour and see how they get on.
I know there's been a couple of games recently where I've been screaming out for going 2 up top, and we've got Timmy Abraham as well, and we've got 3 great options up top. They're all a bit different, but I don't know why we don't try and pair them together. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. The other players I had noted, I think Ross Matthews is excellent. I think he's the heartbeat of the team. I think when he's missing, the rest of the midfield become overexposed and they get caught out. And the other player I had, and it's not just because I'm biased because we sponsor him, but I think Frankie Musonda is a class player.
Yeah.
Play anyway across the back 4. I don't think he'll be at the Rovers for long. I think he's probably the best centre back I've seen this season. I'd be willing to say that. And I think at times it's noticeable when he's missing from the starting lineup. I think he's a bit. I get the romance and the faith in Davidson and Benedictus, but I think Musonda should be starting ahead of one of them personally.
Yeah, I'd agree. No, Musonda definitely has been one of the more consistent and better players this season. Another good find by McGlynn. Somebody that, he came through at Luton, but he's been bouncing around sort of the same levels as Doku. So, but I would agree that I would probably be... I think I'm more looking at the future, but I'd be looking to play Musonda over Davo purely down to age. Because Davo is probably going to come to a time where he's going to have to go, look, I can't compete or I can't play regularly at this level. I might need to manage my minutes, basically. Yeah. Whether that's next season or I don't know how long he reckons he's got, but it'll be interesting to see. I like the 3 of them at the back, and it allows Tumulty and McDonald to fire forward more often.
I was going to say that. I think we're better at our best with 3 at the back. Yep. Yeah,
it gives Davo that extra bit of assurance. The fact that, as I say, he's 37 now. Mm-hmm. And I mean, he wasn't rapid or anything when he was in his prime, but he's certainly slowed down over the last couple of seasons. And if he's got Musonda on one side and Benedictus on the other, he's going to have that little bit extra cover with 3 at the back.
Yeah.
So, and I think I've noticed a few times this season that Benny saved him a couple of times with last-ditch challenges with him. Just that lack of pace, but I don't think Davo's been poor. It's just his pace. I think coming.
It's just
with his age.
The fact we've signed that Lang boy on a pre-contract might tell us something.
Yeah, Tom Lang, yeah.
So,
and we also, as you mentioned earlier in the podcast when we talked about Inverness, we've also managed to get a hold of James Keatons, which is another. I would say it's another statement by McGlynn of going, look, this is who we're going for, and
I think
he's
so, yeah.
been well known for scoring goals in the Championship and playing in successful teams. So, I mean, he got promoted with, what was it, Hibs and Hamilton out of this league, I think.
Yeah.
And he also, was he in the Hearts team when they came in down to the Championship last? I can't remember. He might have been.
I can't remember. I know he won.
Was at Hearts, but I can't remember if that was in the Championship or maybe the season they got relegated.
I can't remember. Anybody listening to the video can drop a comment to check.
Drop a comment if we have messed that up. But
I know he was in the Hibs squad that won the cup, because McClellan will kick my ass if I don't mention that.
No, but as we've done with a few of the teams as well, if I was to put, like, as I say, it's been a good season up to now. Hopefully it continues. But if I was to put one or two players as maybe a little bit inconsistent or under par, I would lean towards somebody like Brad Spencer or possibly Dan Armstrong.
I was waiting.
I knew you were waiting for
I was
that.
waiting for it.
And my reasoning for this is Brad Spencer seems to be, most of the time, a very nice passer of the ball from side to side. And see, if you're wanting to kill a game off in the final 20 minutes, I think he's a great sub to bring on to kill the game and just keep the ball, because he's good at that. But see, anything to try and drive us on forwards or try and progress the ball, I just think he's the last person to have on the pitch. I just don't see him ever making that killer pass, or he never tries anything, I don't think. He's just a very, as I say, he's a decent enough footballer, but I genuinely, I would have him, as probably one of our worst. But I don't think anybody's been below 6 out of 10 this season.
No. I think there was maybe a period where Regan Henry looked like he might have had his head turned and wasn't putting in the performances that you'd expect of someone of his ability. But I still think he's a good player. I wouldn't hammer him quite as much as some of the Rovers fans online are, although I do get their frustrations, but
yeah,
Armstrong started the season well, and like you say, he's kind of faded. I know he's your dad's favourite player. I couldn't give a straight face while I said that, but I don't know if we somehow got promoted this season, I don't think I'd be taking Spencer or Armstrong to the SPL. That's for sure.
I'd maybe keep them for the bench. I definitely wouldn't have them in my starting 11.
Yeah, no. But just to finish up, where do you think the Rovers will finish this year? Because I think I said earlier on, or I said in the part one, that I think us and the Pars, second and third, is how it'll finish. What do you think?
Well, I mean, we're kind of a bit like Scotland. I would always say that we never do it easy. So I'm going to say that we might actually cause a bit of drama right down to the final day and maybe only just scrape into the playoffs. Like, we'll be fourth maybe, but I'm confident we'll get the playoffs. I think we've been consistent enough this season, and we've shown, and we've beaten. Have we beaten every team this season?
We haven't beaten the Pars.
We've not played Inverness more than once. We've not beat Inverness.
Yeah, we haven't beat the Pars either, I don't think.
Yeah, so, I mean, and the Pars could be a potential playoff opponent. So, I mean, in that final league game, I'd like to get a win, well, because it's the Pars, but also the fact that it gives the players a bit of confidence going, we've beaten this lot before. So,
definitely.
You didn't want to be going into a playoff hunt with a team that's like a bogey team that you've no beaten. That's just not a good. It's not a good for confidence, but also it kind of gives you a bit of apprehension going into the game as well.
Yeah. So, we'll see what happens. But we've now completed our scorecards for the championship. So, other than that, I think it's going to be an interesting run in the playoffs. Berths, if we just said, are wide open. I think Alloa are probably going to go down in 10th, but that 9th place trapdoor could be a real problem, and whoever gets caught there faces a tough test coming from League One. Yeah. So if you've any more comments to make on the video. If you have your own scores or ratings for the teams, then drop them in the comment section. If not, make sure to like and subscribe. And otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed our 2 cents on the Scottish Championship, and I look forward to eating humble pie when we do our end of season review. Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.